Tonight, on First at 9 this Wednesday the 25th of June 2025. On hold. Ceasefire between Iran and Israel continues to hold. Reports emerge that the US attempt to destroy Iranian nuclear facilities has failed. Trump denies allegations of US involvement in regime change efforts in Iran. On the lookout. Sri Lanka remains alert for any potential fallout from the Middle East conflict, says cabinet spokesperson. 2 committees appointed to monitor the developing situation. Dengue surge. 16 dengue-related deaths reported so far this year. Over 4,000 cases recorded in June alone, according to health officials. Visit to the past. Visiting UN High Commissioner for Human Rights meets with families of missing persons in Trincomalee. Discussions focus on alleged human rights violations, accountability and reconciliation.
Cinec Campus Open Day. May masa 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Enrolling now for the June 2025 intake and complete your degree in 2 years.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome. You're joining First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story this evening, the ceasefire between Iran and Israel brokered by US President Donald Trump after 12 days of intense bombing and missile exchanges seem to be holding today, despite both sides accusing each other of truce violations as soon as the ceasefire took effect yesterday. Meanwhile, according to an assessment of a confidential American intelligence report, the Iranian nuclear facilities the White House claimed to have destroyed have not in fact permanently disabled the country's nuclear program, but likely only set it back by months. However, the US administration dismissed the intelligence report and called out the reporting regarding the assessment fake news. The conflict between Iran and Israel, which lasted for 12 days, has now been relieved following the ceasefire announced by US President Donald Trump yesterday. The fragile ceasefire appeared to be holding today after a rocky start, giving rise to cautious hope it could lead to a longer-term peace agreement. Both Israel and Iran said they will not break the ceasefire unless the other does so first, after trading accusations of truce violations previously. However, both Israel and Iran have claimed victory in the 12-day war, with Iranians holding celebrations in Tehran and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claiming a triumph that will stand for generations.
We removed from upon us 2 immediate existential threats, the threat of annihilation by nuclear bombs and the threat of annihilation by 20,000 ballistic missiles. The surprising opening strike of Rising Lion will be recorded in the annals of Israel's wars, and it will be studied by all armies of the world.
Meanwhile, according to an early US intelligence assessment produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, the US military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend have not destroyed the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back by months. However, the White House rejected the report, while the US military said the operation went as planned and was an overwhelming success. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said he does not want a regime change in Iran because he does not want to see chaos.
Have enrichment and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and they know that. They're going to get on to being a great trading nation. You know, they're very good traders. They have a lot of oil. They're going to do well. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No, I don't want it. I'd like to. Regime change takes chaos, and ideally we don't want to see so much chaos.
In the meantime, Iran's parliament today approved a bill to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. The bill, which must be approved by Iran's unelected Guardian Council to become law, stipulates that any future inspection by the UN nuclear watchdog would need approval by the Supreme National Security Council. Meanwhile, Iran said at least 610 people, including 13 children, were killed and 3,056 wounded since Israel launched its attack on June 13th. In Israel, at least 28 people were killed in Iranian strikes. In the meantime, Iran has executed 3 men accused of spying for Israel. These suspects were reportedly convicted of collaborating with Israel's Mossad spy agency and smuggling equipment used in an assassination. Iran has reportedly arrested 700 people accused of having ties with Israel during the 12-day conflict. As the conflict in the Middle East dies down, the Sri Lankan embassy in Tehran said 2 Sri Lankans have been sent safely to Turkey through the Iran-Turkey border, while another has been sent from Bandar Abbas to Sharjah in the UAE by ferry. Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel, Nimal Bandar, said authorities are expected to lift the ban on public gatherings and celebrations soon. Several Israeli airlines have resumed a limited number of international flights from Tel Aviv International Airport. 3 Sri Lankans who departed Israel today have safely arrived in Colombo via Cairo Airport in Egypt.
යාඩියා ලොව වැඩියෙන්ම අලවිවන ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් ස්කූටරය අවාන්ස් ඔටෝ වෙතින්.
Sri Lanka has appointed a cabinet subcommittee to assess the impact of the conflict situation in the Middle East on several sectors of the country and recommend appropriate action. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa said the government, while urging an end to hostilities, will take measures to mitigate the adverse effects of the conflict on Sri Lanka's economy.
Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers has appointed a cabinet subcommittee to submit appropriate recommendations after closely studying the conflict situation in the Middle East. The committee is tasked with reviewing all fields in Sri Lanka that will be affected by the conflict, the extent of the impact and proposing actions that should be taken in this regard. The committee, chaired by Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath, comprises Minister of Plantation and Community Infrastructure Samantha Widiaratna, Trade Minister Vasantha Samarasinha and Minister of Power Kumara Jayakuri. Another committee comprising secretaries to the relevant ministries is to be appointed to assist the Cabinet Subcommittee. During the Cabinet briefing today, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa was questioned on the matter.
පක්ෂය ඇතුළු කණ්ඩායම් සර්වපාක්ෂික සමුළුව කැඳවල සාකච්ඡා කරමු කියලා කිව්වා. ඔබතුමාලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැද්ද? මහජන නියෝජිතයෝ හැටියට ඔවුන්ගේ දායකත්වයත් මේකට ලබා ගන්න.
කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේදී
The matter of an all-party conference was not discussed during the cabinet meeting. If the need for such a conference arises during the course of the cabinet subcommittee's operations, we will consider it. Parliamentary sessions already serve the same purpose.
දින යොදා ගන්නට පුළුවන්.
මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් රාජ්‍යයක් විදිහට ශ්‍රී ලංකාව රාජ්‍ය නායකයා විදිහට ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ ඇයි ප්‍රකාශයක් නිකුත් නොකර ඉන්නේ?
අපි මේ යුද්ධ
We are opposed to this military conflict. Even though Sri Lanka is a small nation, our request is that these conflicts be stopped. When it comes to this conflict as well, our stance is to condemn war regardless of which side incites it and advocate for world peace.
ලංකාවට ආර්ථිකමය වශයෙන් බලපෑමක් තියෙනවද මේ වෙනකොට?
අපේ ශ්‍රමිකයන් විශාල වශයෙන්
Many Sri Lankans are employed in Israel. Some work in Iran as well. Their remittances will be impacted. There is obviously a risk of global oil prices rising. Our imports to the Middle East, including tea, may also be affected. The Cabinet Subcommittee comprises ministers in charge of all relevant subjects. We intend to minimize adverse effects on our economy and find alternatives.
යොමුවීමටත් තමයි අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
ඇමරිකාවේ ක්‍රියාකලාපය බොහෝ රාජ්‍ය නායකයන් හෙලා දැකලා තිබ්බා. හැබැයි ඍජුවම ඇමරිකාවට විරුද්ධව ස්ටේට්මන්ට් එකක් අද වෙනකන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා රජය තුලින් නිකුත් වෙලා නැහැ.
විදේශ අමාත්‍යාංශය දාපු ස්ටේට්මන්ට් එකේ ඊශ්‍රායලය සහ ඉරානය කියන වචනවත් නැහැ. රාජතාන්ත්‍රිකව උලන්තර මධ්‍යස්ථ වෙන්නද උත්සාහ කරන්නේ.
අපි ඉන්නේ සාමය පැත්ත.
We are on the side of peace. We will help secure peace even if it is only by a word. Regardless of which side launches the missile, it shatters the peace. When we as a country have begun to achieve a certain level of economic stability, a conflict anywhere in the world, especially one in the Middle East, is detrimental and risky for us.
පාඩු සහ අවදානම් සාගතයි.
විරුද්ධ පක්ෂයේ ඉන්නකොට පලස්තීනය පිළිබඳව බොහෝ කතා කරපු ඔබතුමන්ලා ඇමරිකාව ඉරානයට එල්ල කරන ඒ ප්‍රහාරය පිළිබඳව කිසිම හෙලා දැකීමක් කරලා නැහැ. ඒක සාධාරණ නැහැනේ.
යුද්ධයේ
The situation of the war is evolving daily. Various countries are intervening in the conflict. We have expressed our overall stance on the conflict. Our stance on Palestine remains unchanged. We advocated for Palestinians' right to life and independence. We will continue to adhere to that stance.
විදිහටම අනුගමනය කරනවා.
රටේ රාජ්‍ය නායකයා රාජ්‍ය නියෝජනය කරලා නිවේදනයක් ඉදිරියේදී නිකුත් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවද?
දැන් විදේශ අමාත්‍ය
The Foreign Ministry has already released a statement. Isn't that part of the government? If further clarification is required on our stance, we as the government will do so through the Foreign Ministry.
පත් කරනවා.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Apico Next Gen. Make the leap to faster sleep.
Sri Lanka is set to draft a new law for state procurement based on an initial draft which has been enhanced by obtaining the opinions of stakeholders. Meanwhile, cabinet approval was granted for the Sri Lanka Transport Board to purchase 200 new super luxury buses for expressway operations. In the meantime, the historic Nuwara post office is set to become a tourist attraction while postal operations remain functional. Cabinet repealed the previous administration's decision to transfer the historic Nuwara post office building and its premises to the Urban Development Authority. Instead, tourism activities will be promoted at the colonial era building while keeping the post office in operation. Cabinet also approved a proposal for the Sri Lanka Transport Board to purchase 200 new super luxury buses for expressway operation using its own funds. 29 will be purchased through financially capable depots, while the rest will be purchased with down payments made using SLTB funds, with the balance to be paid in monthly installments over 5 years. Cabinet also gave the green light for the legal draftsman to draft the law for state procurement. An initial draft has been prepared by 2 international and 2 local consultants with the sponsorship of the Asian Development Bank, which has been enhanced by obtaining the opinions of stakeholders. Meanwhile, the procurement contracts for 3 CT scanners for the Navalapitiya, Dambulla and Kuliapitiya hospitals will be awarded to Haley's Life Sciences. Similarly, the procurement contract for 500,000 pre-filled 6,000 IU 0.6 milliliter syringes of enoxaparin sodium used to treat heart patients will be awarded to MCure Pharmaceuticals. Cabinet also approved the drafting of amendments to the Poisons, Opium and Dangerous Drugs Ordinance and the Judicature Act to address narcotic drug trafficking in oceanic areas. The legal draftsman was directed to prepare the relevant bills. Approval was granted to publish a standardized procedure for law enforcement to identify, investigate and prosecute organized child trafficking. This procedure will be officially enforced through a government gazette. Similarly, approval was granted to implement a program prohibiting involving children under 16 years old in street begging and trading and involving children between 16 and 18 years of age in hazardous employment such as domestic service starting from July 1st. The program will be implemented by strictly enforcing existing legal provisions and raising public awareness in this regard through extensive propaganda. Cabinet granted approval to replace the Tourism Act No. 38 of 2005. The legal draftsman was instructed to draft a new bill based on recommendations from an expert committee. Cabinet also greenlit the proposal to establish smart classrooms in 500 selected schools under the proposed General Education Digitization Project to be implemented with a $20 million grant from China. A network operation management unit, program operation room and conference room under the project are to be established at the Isurupaya premises. And now here's a look at some thoughts shared in the political arena today. The JVP said it does not intend to join any political alliance. However, the party has collaborated with nearly all major political entities at various times. The prevailing political culture in the country remains largely unchanged, continuing the traditional patterns. We do not subscribe to a political culture that permits the opposition to act without accountability in areas where they have not secured power. We have received a clear mandate from the public and we are committed to exercising that mandate in accordance with democratic principles. Discussions have already taken place and all proceedings are currently being conducted within the framework of the law. Regardless of the process employed, an election was conducted to secure control of the local councils. Just as members of parliament and even the president are elected through a secret ballot by the will of the people, the establishment of power in local councils through a secret ballot is equally legitimate. Such a method is fully compliant with the law and does not constitute any legal violation. The government has reshaped the existing political culture to serve its own interests. Although it initially came to power on the promise of enacting a systemic transformation, it has since abandoned those commitments, effectively dismantling the very framework it pledged to reform. The expansion of the NPP is still ongoing and we remain committed to further strengthening and broadening our movement. We welcome the support of any member of parliament or Pradesh Sabha, urban council or municipal council members who wish to align with our vision and contribute to our efforts. The NPP initially called for this election on the grounds that all other political parties were mired in corruption. They pledged to liberate the country from the influence of those very parties. However, in a notable shift, they have now aligned themselves with the political groups they once strongly opposed. The process of forming administrations in local government institutions where no single party holds a majority is continuing today. So far, the National People's Power, the governing party, has taken control of 209 councils, leading the race. The Samagi Jana Balavege follows in second place, having established power in 30 councils. The final outcomes are still unfolding as parties negotiate power sharing arrangements in hung councils across the country.
Continuing the establishment of power in local government institutions where no single political party or group holds a majority, the Nawalpitiya Urban Council convened today under the leadership of the Local Government Commissioner for the Central Province, Chamila Tapattu. In the open election held, Amal Priyankara, a former chairman of the Pradesh Sabha representing an independent group, was elected chairman with 9 votes. His opponent, Tilak Sirisena of the National People's Power, received 5. Meanwhile, K. Sureswaran, also contesting from the independent group, was elected deputy chairman by a majority vote. The chairmanship of the Matara Mulatiyana Pradesh Sabha was won by Renuka Komasuru of the Sri Lanka Potujana Peramuna, who secured 13 votes in a secret ballot. The NPP candidate received only 10 votes. The vice chairmanship was won by Mahendra Liyanage of the Samikjana Balawegaya. The Walallavita Pradesh Sabha, which convened today under the chair by Local Government Commissioner for the Western Province, Sarangika Jayasundara, had 3 candidates vying for the chairmanship representing the NPP, SJB and the SLPP. In the subsequent secret ballot, the NPP Sunil Abesiri was elected chairman with 16 votes, while the SJB candidate received 5 votes and the SLPP candidate secured 3. In the Kalutara Palindanuwara Pradesh Sabha, despite the SJB holding 2 more seats than the NPP, Sanat Jeevantha of the NPP was elected chairman by a narrow margin of 12 votes, defeating the SJB candidate by 1 vote in a secret ballot. Malkanthi Kumar Singh, contesting from the independent group, was elected deputy chairman. In the Nawalpitiya Pradesh Sabha, an independent group secured control. Meanwhile, the Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi took power in the Navindaveli and Karathiv Pradesh Sabhas, and the SJB gained control of the Wangala Settikulam and Ayagama Pradesh Sabha. The National People's Power secured control of the Kotmale, Nanattan, Musali, Walallavita, Palindura and Kuruvita Pradesh Sabhas today. Accordingly, the National People's Power currently holds control over 209 local government institutions, including 151 they won outright in the local government elections. The Samikjana Balawegaya controls 30 institutions, the Sri Lanka Potujana Peramuna holds 4, and the Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi governs 18 institutions. Additionally, the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress holds 4 institutions, and the Sri Lanka Workers' Congress controls 3. Other political parties and groups collectively govern 16 local government institutions. Meanwhile, the formation of councils in 10 institutions has been delayed due to conflicts of opinions and pending court orders. Meanwhile, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa was questioned on the issues that have arisen in the leadership elections in local government authorities.
2018 මේ පනතට අනුවමයි පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණ පැවැත්තුනේ. මේ ආකාරයෙන් විපක්ෂයට බලය ගියා. මේ වගේ දෙයක් අපි දැක්කේ නැහැ. ආණ්ඩුවට විශාල චෝදනාවක් තියෙනවා. මේ රහස් ඡන්දේ යන නිසා තමයි මේ ගැටුම ඇති වෙන්නේ. 2018 ඕක වෙන්න නැති එක ප්‍රධාන.
The reason this did not happen in 2018 is that even if a party did not have an absolute majority, we remained silent and allowed them to establish power. However, this time, following actions taken by Sajith Premadasa after the results were issued, this issue surfaced.
නියෝජන අග්‍රාධිපතිවරයෙක් පක්ෂයෙන් යෝජනා නොකරේ ඒ වෙලාවේ 16ක බෞද්ධ ඡන්දයක් තිබුණා මාලිමාවට පොට්ටුවෙන් යෝජනා කරනකොට ඒ සබිකෙන් සියලු දෙනා නියන්න වෙටියා. ඊතුරු සියලු മന്ത്രി
All other councillors deliberately walked out to prevent quorum and hold proceedings. As a result, they decided to appoint the deputy mayor from among those who supported the council.
සානක්‍යන් මන්ත්‍රීතුමාත් ඔබතුමාලාට චෝදනා කරනවා නැගෙනහිර පළාතේ බෞද්ධරයක් වුණ ආසන ලබා ගත්තත් මාලිමාවේ ඇතම් පිරිස් ඩීල් දාලා ඒවා කඩාකප්පල් කරන්න හදනවා කියලා.
අනිත් එක මතුමා ආණ්ඩුවම පළාත් පාලන අතර බලය පිහිටවන්න ඕනේද? විපක්ෂයට බලය ගියොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ?
අපිට ඕන මේ සංවර්ධනය ගමේ ජනතාව
We want to extend this development to the village level. The easiest way to achieve this is by establishing NPP power in these local government institutions. If they believe they can govern without this, Sajith Premadasa can demonstrate it through the local government councils they have won. Let's wait and see what happens in those institutions.
බලන්නකො මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා ඔය මේ එකතු වෙලා හදනේ අනාගත.
The case against the unlawful release of an inmate under the guise of a presidential amnesty was taken up for hearing at the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court this afternoon. During the hearing, it was revealed that former Minister Milroy Fernando's spouse, who was sentenced to death in 2005, has also been released under the guise of a presidential amnesty without adhering to the lengthy legal process which has to be followed to commute a death row sentence.
The legal complaint filed over the unlawful release of an inmate under the guise of a presidential pardon was taken up for hearing at the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court this afternoon. Suspended Commissioner General of Prisons Tushar Upul-Deniya, who was held in remand custody until today, was produced before the court. A further investigation report was presented to the court in response to the complaint filed by the Deputy Solicitor General Suharsh Herath. In court, the Deputy Solicitor General took up the position that the suspect was arrested since he was subject to suspicion beyond a reasonable doubt. She further claimed that the suspect has submitted 2 documents to the investigating officers when he was summoned to record statements in the lead up to his apprehension. The documents included a letter addressed to the Ministry of Justice written by the suspect off the back of a newspaper article exposing the purported unlawful release of W.M. Athula Tilakaratne from the Anuradhapura prison. Annexed to that letter was another letter which is suspected to have been drafted by the superintendent of the Anuradhapura prison. According to the Deputy Solicitor General, the second letter, purportedly sent by the superintendent of Anuradhapura prison, does not include a specific date, a letter number, or the seal of an authorized individual. Attention of court was drawn to the absence of those elements which are usually found in letters exchanged between government departments. Accordingly, the Deputy Solicitor claimed that the second letter was forged by the suspended Commissioner General of Prisons in order to justify the letter he sent to the Ministry of Justice. During court proceedings, the Deputy Solicitor General accused President's counsel Sarath Jayamana, who appeared for the defendant, for unlawfully releasing the spouse of former Minister Milroy Fernando, who was sentenced to death over a double murder in 2005. The accusation was levelled at the President's counsel with reference to his career at the Attorney General's department. She further asserted that a person on death row can only be released through a special presidential pardon. However, the former minister's wife has been released on general amnesty. Considering these arguments, the Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali ordered the suspect to be further remanded until the 9th of July. The Chief Magistrate also ordered the complainants to conclude the investigations and report the progress to the court by then.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Health confirms the deaths of 16 persons this year due to a dengue outbreak. In the month of June alone, over 4,000 dengue cases were reported, underscoring a concerning rise in the disease prevalence. In view of the escalating situation, a mosquito control week has been declared across Colombo district, which remains the most severely affected area to date.
The National Dengue Control Unit of the Ministry of Health has declared a mosquito control week starting from the 20th of June targeting the Colombo district. From the 30th of June, a mosquito control week will be implemented targeting 111 other areas overseen by regional health services directors and medical officers. Separately, a dengue prevention campaign has also been launched in the Casbah Municipal Council area, spearheaded by the Office of the Western Province Governor in collaboration with multiple government bodies including the Sri Lanka Air Force. As the initial phase of the program unfolds, drone technology was deployed to locate and map mosquito breeding grounds. Meanwhile, during a media briefing today, the Ministry of Health provided insights into the current dengue outbreak and outlined ongoing control strategies.
So far this year, 27,932 dengue cases have been reported. A significant spike in infections was observed during the months of April and May. 4,372 cases have already been recorded in the month of June alone. Since January, 16 fatalities were reported attributed to dengue-related complications. Current data further suggest a continuing upward trend in the spread of the disease. United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk, who is currently in Sri Lanka, visited Trincomalee today, where he met with families of missing persons, civil society leaders and local officials. During the visit, activists and relatives handed over letters and memorandums while holding a peaceful demonstration to highlight ongoing concerns about enforced disappearances. Turk expressed sorrow and solidarity with the affected families. Earlier in Colombo, he met with Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath and the Chief Justice to discuss human rights, accountability and reconciliation in Sri Lanka. His visit continues with planned stops in Jaffna and Kandy and will conclude with a press briefing in Colombo tomorrow. Welcome back. In business news, measured buying interest resurfaced in the secondary market today as investors continue to respond to signs of easing geopolitical tensions. The central bank today held its weekly T-bill auction, raising 60.5 billion rupees, marginally lower than the initial offer of 65 billion. The 3-month bill raised 7.9 billion, falling behind its initial offer of 25 billion, with the yield steady at 7.56%. The 6-month bill raised 38.1 billion, with its yield racing slightly by 2 basis points to 7.75%. The 12-month bill raised 14.5 billion, narrowly missing the initial offer, while its yields remained unchanged at 7.94%. Meanwhile, building on the positive sentiment from yesterday, the Colombo Bourse sustained its bullish momentum throughout the trading session. Driven by strong investor confidence, the benchmark ASPI posted 344-point rally, ending the day at 17,536. And with that, here's a look at the exchange rates for today.